Well, it was very educational because on the farm we had many different kinds of things that we grew, many kinds of animals. The winter and summer weather, uh, the soil, the plants. It was a very, very educational period in my life. And there were many times of the year when my mother needed to help my father on the farm, and she didn't have time to take care of my brother and my sister and me inside. So on one occasion when it was necessary for her to help with the harvest, then that meant that she had to leave the three of us in the house alone. And so she said to me, "Frank, you're the big kid now, and you got to take care of the little kids." So I was 4 years old, and I was the big kid. So I was supposed to take care of my brother, who was 2 years younger, and my sister, who was a baby. I would put 4 chairs together and a chair on top, and I'd sit up there. I was the king, the big kid, and I would tell my brother and sister stories, or in one case, they asked me to read a story to them the way our father did. So I got up on the chair, and because I was a big kid and could read, they thought I could read. So I took a book and I read them a story. I couldn't read, but I read a story. And then they told my mother and father that Frank was a very good reader. We enjoyed his story. So it impressed on me that reading was important. So when was old enough, when I got to be 6 years old and went to school, then I was very eager to learn how to read, so that I was a real reader, not just a make-believe. My first 8 grades were in a one-room schoolhouse, and one teacher taught all 8 grades. So in this, and there were about 25 students in the schoolhouse. Some in each of the 8 grades, and all the classes. The teacher was very busy because she taught all the grades, and she taught mathematics or spelling or reading or whatever in school. About 2 weeks before the 7th grade state examination, my teacher said to me, "Frank, you're a 6th grader, and you haven't studied 7th grade, but I think you've heard something about the 7th grade. Would you want to take the 7th grade examination?" And I didn't know what to say, but I finally decided to. So I studied 7th grade for 2 weeks, and took the state examination. And I passed the state examination. So now I would be skipping from 6th grade to 8th grade, having passed the 7th grade exam. Well, my parents were criticized for that because they thought that now that I'm going to be 8th grader, but I didn't study 7th grade, and I'm gonna flunk out 8th grade. Well, I studied. I was a good student at the 8th grade, and instead of flunking the 8th grade examination, I had the highest marks in Grand Traverse County, which was a big surprise and pleased me very much because I not only had the highest marks, but I got a free trip to Detroit for a week at the Michigan State Fair, which was a great experience for a farm boy. A state fair, I don't know whether they still have the state fair or not, but the state fair, you had animals, the prize cow or the prize sheep or the prize pig, and then you had prize crops, the prize wheat or corn or apples or various prize items. It was agricultural in basis, but it was the prize winner were excellent. And then if you finished 8th grade, then some students went to what they call high school. That was after 8th grade. I lived too far away from a high school, so I had to live in Traverse City during the week. On Sunday afternoon, I would have to have someone take me 20 miles to a city called Traverse City, where there was a high school, and then I would live with families from Monday through Friday, and then Friday afternoon or Friday evening, I'd go back to the farm for the weekend. After 4 years of high school, then I won a scholarship to Michigan Tech. I decided I wanted to study chemical engineering because in high school I took math. I had 4 years of math, but I also took a year of chemistry and a year of physics. And I found those so interesting that I decided I wanted to take something in college that involved chemistry and physics, and chemical engineering was, of course, top of the list. I got a scholarship to Michigan Tech, but I didn't have any money, and so the first year, when I was a freshman, I had enough money to rent a room, but I didn't have any money for food, so I had to live on canned food, cold food. So I bought spaghetti and pork and beans and other canned food. I was glad when summer came and I could go back to the farm and get something to eat. As I said, in 1938, there was about 135 in the graduating class and only 2 ladies. The college has grown, and I don't know how many ladies in the graduating class today, but I'm quite certain that it was a lot more than 2. And I was the first one in the class when I graduated in 1938, and that enabled me to get a fellowship to the University of Michigan, where I went for another year to get my master's degree in chemical engineering. in the spring of 1939, a man named Leonard Poole in Detroit wrote to the Dean of Engineering at the university and asked him to send some students to Detroit that he could interview for a position that he wanted to fill. And so the dean picked me and some others, and we went to Detroit and we talked to Mr. Poole. And the consequence of that was that he offered me a job after graduation. In early July 1939, I moved to Detroit and started this job that he had offered me. The result was the starting of a company, Air Products, and there's four of us started a company in 1940 that is now called Air Products and Chemicals, and that was started in Detroit. During the war, Air Products had so much work to do, and there was no labor or factories available in Detroit, so the government took us to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where they had a factory and where there was labor available. After the war was over, then in the spring of 1946, we moved from Chattanooga to the Lehigh Valley. And I retired in 1980 after 40 years. And so I've been here since then. I decided to stay here. The 40 years was really divided. The first 40 years, I was essentially full-time in the U.S. But then the second 20 years, second of 40, then I was involved in traveling and the purpose of establishing contacts in various countries. So that was almost full-time travel. And I traveled around the world 5 times. Much of that was in India and in Japan, but I also spent time in South America and Australia, New Zealand. The trip to a foreign country would come after correspondence by mail. And if somebody in Japan, for instance, wanted to talk about oxygen, then by mail, then I would agree and say, well, I'd like to visit you in Japan, and I can get a flight from New York to San Francisco to Hawaii to Japan. I can visit you, and I would give them my schedule, and if it was okay, then I would do that. Of course, all I knew is the man's name on the letter, and so I had to decide whether the people I was talking to were real or not. I spent a lot of time in Japan, and most of the time I was with somebody else, and so the two of us would go to a Japanese restaurant that served what they called international people from outside the country. In this one case, I was in Japan alone, and I said to myself, well, if we've been eating what the Japanese think international people should eat, I'd like to know what Japanese people eat alone. So one time I picked a restaurant that was for Japanese people only. And when I got the menu, it was all Japanese, no English. The waitress couldn't speak English, all Japanese. So I didn't know what to do. So I just picked something. I just put my finger on the menu, trying to get something. I didn't know what it was going to be, but when she came with a plate full of little birds, and these birds were cooked, I think in oil. The feathers were off, but they had their claws, and when I crunched the bird, it sounded very brittle. I could tell that I was crunching bones, bird bones. It was different. It was interesting. Many of my friends and my wife, they couldn't believe that I would eat birds. I think that people should try things. The fact that I was eager to travel, the fact that I was eager to try various things to eat. Don't be hesitant to try things. And don't try to live the same life all of your life that you did when you were a child. Try new things and do new things. And life is interesting, but it's big if you make it big. I think life should be an adventure, not something that you do the same every day all the time.